God, I am so happy to finally be reviewing this man. Hell fucking yeah. Mike, rapper from the fucking Bronx, mother hella. Been following him since 2017. He released an album back then titled May God Bless Your Hustle, which I thought was one of the most cutting edge and interesting of that year. It made my year-end list. I thought it was great. I loved how his writing blended stream of consciousness bars alongside some really poetic imagery. It made for some very sentimental and poignant writing. He did a great job on that album of giving you a clear idea of the emotions he was channeling during the process of making every song. He's great at just putting you directly in his shoes mentally, just through his words alone. But the choppy and very fragmentary approach he takes to the beats, which he, for the most part, produces himself under the name DJ Black Power, only uplifts the really distorted thoughts that Mike is spilling out on song after song. Now, if you've never heard Mike's music, the most well-known recent release I can directly compare his music to would probably be last year's Some Rap Songs by Earl Sweatshirt. The approach taken to the sampling on that album is quite similar to what you'll get typically on a Mike song, so if that general sound and aesthetic reels you in and interests you, then yeah, please dive into Mike's discography. I'm sure you'll be greeted with gem after gem. Unfortunately though, the inspiration behind this new album, Tears of Joy, doesn't really come in the most joyful of circumstances, as Mike's mother recently passed away. And since depression, anxiety, fear, paranoia, suicidal thoughts, drug use, amongst many other very troubling topics, have all been things fueling Mike's lyrical content on all of his projects so far, this loss has done a lot of damage to him, and that's very clear when you read into the lyrics on Tears of Joy, which is ultimately a tribute to his mother. Right out the gate on the first track, you hear him spell out lines like he's holding his hands on his head, trying to keep it in, how he's wondering if he'll even be able to rap on stage just because this loss has affected him so badly. And the way some of these samples are stretched and warped on tracks like Summer 17 and that opening track, it just kind of feels like the musical equivalent to having every negative thought that could possibly enter your mind all just incessantly swirl around your head at once until you can barely make sense of what's real anymore. It's quite a despondent release. And Mike's ear for production seems to be perfectly indicative of how he's feeling a lot of the time with his music, and that is definitely still the case here with Tears of Joy. Like, the link between his bars and the production just feels unbreakable. They're always in perfect harmony with one another, like on the song Whole Wide World, where he talks about how terrified thoughts just constantly linger in his mind and how he has to force himself to persevere through it all, just kind of going through life on cruise control. And it kind of sounds like he's sampling elevator music on this track, which just kind of further emphasizes that point, how he has to push through everything and stay on autopilot just like you're in an elevator, just to make it through a day. That's kind of the connection I made with how the sampling on that track sort of elevated what it was he was saying, and I would say Tears of Joy has probably my favorite beat selection of any Mike project yet. The beat on the track Take Crowns is just absolutely stellar. I really love how he managed to take these really broken vocal snippets and just flip them into such a downtrodden and sorrowful beat. It's just such an immersive track. It makes for some of his most creative music so far. The track Big Smoke sounds like it was recorded in some fucking steampunk cave. I wouldn't be surprised if this track sampled New Precursor City from Jak and Daxter 1 on PS2. And there is also this essence of redemption that this project has going for it on tracks like Planet and It's Like Basketball, which both kind of show Mike celebrating his come up and sort of finding solace in the fact that as long as he has the people he came up with alongside him, the sky is the limit, and any hardships that come along the way can be overcome. As much as his mother's passing has destroyed him emotionally, it also feels like it's kind of inspired him in the same way to make her prouder than ever if she is watching over him from above. And the song Breathe Good is also a good example of a track that shows his concrete understanding of who it is around him that he should trust, how he's managed to sort of take advantage of his own independence by sticking to his roots, and it's all wrapped over this really murky beat just filled with these just super warped vocal grunts that just kind of nicely bounce off of these very muddy drums. This album, however, doesn't really pack too much in the way of musical surprises if you are already familiar with what Mike's music sounds like. There is the track Sleepwalk, which is probably the biggest left turn in the track list from a musical standpoint. It features a bit more of a fast-paced and dreamy beat, making pretty solid use of these like twinkling synth notes and speedier drum patterns. So outside of that song and a few other exceptions, this is for the most part the Mike you know him to be, from a production standpoint at least. I think this project does show him basically perfecting the style of hip-hop that he kind of helped forge, that he kind of emerged from, but I do think it would be exciting to see him branch out into some more unexpected territory next time. Because as much as I love his approach to beat making, I think his sampling is just mind-bending, his music is getting a tiny bit easy to predict at this point. Most every track here is structured the same. These tracks are usually quite short and they kind of feature a single verse or two, maybe a beat switch, but rarely will you ever get anything resembling a hook or a bridge. And whilst I appreciate how Mike does go against those typical formulas or fundamentals in his music, I think sticking by them might actually make his music a bit less redundant, funnily enough, because he does kind of just, you know, stick to that line a little bit too often, I think. But all things considered, I think Tears of Joy is stellar. I think it's the best thing Mike has dropped so far. I think it's the biggest highlight, the biggest crowning jewel in this discography, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching my review. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye!